Hello there. Welcome to my show, COVID-19 update by Heerak. Today is November 12th, 2020. It's World Pneumonia Day. A lot of children die from pneumonia, and it's really sad. And probably in this flu season, we have 6 more months of flu season left. A lot more children will die from flu than last flu season, maybe even 10 flu seasons combined. We're not talking about COVID-19, we're talking about like flu, but both COVID-19 and flu can give children pneumonia. It's really sad what's going to happen in the winter time because we're expecting a lot of people to die. Millions of Americans can die by June 2021. Uh, I'm Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District for November 8th, 2022 election 2 years from now. Uh, I may decide to run as a Republican. I still have 2 years to decide, but currently I'm independent. Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to die. That's like certain. Um, it's a killer virus. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and more cases equals more death. So, death of many are guaranteed. The question you have to ask is, who do you think will die? Do you think your child will die from COVID-19? If you have a little child who's like 3 years old, do you think that child will die from COVID-19? Do you think your older child will die from COVID-19? May have a child who's like 80 years old. Or maybe you think, a child who's like 13 or 14 may have a higher chance of dying. If you have 3 children, 3, 8, and 14. Or it's possible all 3 of your children will die and you will be childless. And if you had menopause, you can no longer have children. And that would be the greatest tragedy for a mother, especially if the mother is fairly young, because she has many decades to live after all of her children die from COVID-19 or the flu or the pneumonia. And there are many other things that can kill children in the winter, but during COVID-19 uh, flu season, children will die in far large numbers from different types of illnesses, like strep throat, sinus infection, mononucleosis, um, RSV virus, pneumonia, flu, common cold. And that's the sad part. Because when you think about it, um, it's an inescapable force of death that's coming. There's nothing you can do to stop COVID-19 from taking your child's life if your child gets COVID. Um, I predicted that COVID-19 can kill children, teenagers, young adults like 18, 19, 20, 21, because COVID-19 has mutated. In April, uh, COVID-19 mutated significantly to be able to effectively infect and kill babies and young children, like extremely young children. from newborn to 5, 6. Before April, infections were difficult to find, but starting with April, babies start getting infected in large numbers. So we know that babies can get infected. And if you can get infected, you could die from COVID-19, especially in the flu season. In June, we had COVID-19 mutate to infect a lot of young adults, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20s and 30s. And I'm calling that the Florida virus because it nobody can put a pinpoint on it, but there's highly likelihood that the mutation started in Florida. If you remember, people were traveling around in June, going to Disneyland, so it quickly spread. So it's difficult to know if it originated in Florida or Texas and California. These are the three most likely culprits for mutations, although it could have started in other states as well. But the most important fact that you need to remember is COVID-19 has mutated so that it can kill 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds. So yeah, so it's really bad right now. It's really, really bad. So a lot of 20-year-olds are going to die. So maybe you have a child who's in college, 18, 19, 20, 21, and maybe that child will die from COVID-19. We have 6 more months of flu season to go, and it's inevitable. Death from COVID is inevitable. The question is, which one of your loved ones will die from COVID? That's the question that you should think about. Will it be your child? Will it be your brother or sister? Will it be your mother or father? Will it be your uncle? You just don't know. But someone's going to die. We have 6 more months to go. We're not saying like, oh, it's going to be over next month. Then you can have hope maybe that you survive or none of your family members will die. But you have no hope because 6 months will kill most likely millions of Americans. I'm estimating more like 30 million Americans will die from COVID-19 by June 2021. And I believe that I'm going to be correct. Because look at the numbers that are growing. It's growing exponentially. It's going to keep growing exponentially until like April or May. Meaning, if we have 1,000 deaths today, 1 week from now, we can have like 4,000 deaths. Or 2 weeks from now. And then 2 weeks from that, you could have like 8,000 deaths. And then 2 weeks from that, you could have like 12,000 deaths. You see, it grows exponentially. So about 3 months from now, I'm predicting we're going to have like 30,000 deaths every day in America alone. It's based on facts and figures. We have like 130,000 infections per day. A 10% death rate, we'll have 13,000 die every day, right? Like 4 or 5 weeks from now. But you have to remember, as hospitals run out of beds, you're going to have death rate that's going to hit like 20%. So out of 130,000 people, you're going to have 26,000 die at a certain point. Once the nurses die in large numbers, death rate can go up to 30% per case, per number of cases. So if you have 130,000 cases in one day, you could, several weeks from now, you can have 39,000 deaths. You see how that works? And I'm estimating that daily cases will go up from 130,000, they'll probably double in several weeks, in a few weeks. So it'll be like 240,000 cases, in which case 10% death rate will be 24,000 people. 20% death rate will be 48,000 people per day, every day. You will see these deaths. 30% percent death rate would be 72,000 deaths per day. I think this is highly possible in the United States of America. We have 6 months to go. In which case, we are guaranteed certainly millions of deaths. I don't think we are going to have any less than millions of deaths because it's an exponential growth. It's not like a simple interest. It's compound interest. It's an exponential growth of death. We have 6 more months to go. I know some people don't want to see any evil. They don't want to hear any evil. They just want to believe in the liberal media that not many people are going to die. That's just not true. A lot of people are going to die. Tremendous number of people are going to die. That is just simply guaranteed. And that's the tragedy of where we are. Because we are recording 130,000 cases per day. And I'm blaming the governors and the mayors, because the governors and mayors should have shut down their city when it starts to go out of control. United States of America is like a continent. We're not like a country like England, Ireland, Israel, these little dinky little countries. We are more like a continent, and every state is like a country. So state of Pennsylvania is like a country. State of New Jersey is like a country. State of New York is like a country. So when it comes to blaming people for COVID-19 death, I blame the governors. Because our country, if you look at the history of the United States of America, there has always been a tension between state rights and federal rights. And states do not want federal government to tell them what to do. You see what I'm saying? So I actually believe that President Trump is a very good leader in COVID-19. He has his personal views, but the fact that President Trump did not tell all 50 states to do something, I think is a testament to his respect for the United States of America as a historical democracy. Because President Trump basically gave every state the right to decide for themselves. You may not like President Trump, but you have to recognize the fact that President Trump gave every state the right to decide its destiny as a state. And that is why, from the vantage point of the states, President Trump is far better than Vice President Biden. Because Vice President Biden wants to control all 50 states. And he has a dictatorial streak in him, which is very dangerous because not all states are experiencing the same thing. Obviously, even within the state, there are some differences, but by and large, there's more similarity within the state. And when you compare one state to another state, there can be vast differences. And another reason why states should decide for itself what they want to do is because within the state, you have people who've lived long in that state. So in a sense, there's a kind of sense of ownership and possession and self-interest operating among the residents in that state. So the residents of Virginia want something that would be good for Virginia because they're Virginians. They may not care what happens to Maryland. most of the Virginians may not care so much what happens to Maryland because their interest is in Virginia. Many of them can trace their lineage back to the Civil War. Many Virginians suffered under the Reconstruction at the heavy hand of Lincoln. And so within Virginia, there's a shared history, shared culture, shared experience, and shared interest. The reason why Robert E. Lee decided to fight with Virginia is because his family was in Virginia, his friends were in Virginia, his relatives were in Virginia. There is a type of identity within the states that you cannot deny in America because this is part of American democracy. Even when you see our election, we have the electoral college system that is based on the states. Each state can decide how the election is run. Because in a sense, we say we are United States of America, but in some sense, we are more like United Federation of America, meaning we are federation of different states. And this is clear when you look at nurse practice acts. Each state decides what the nurses in the states are supposed to do. Obviously, there's similarities in all 50 states, but at the end of the day, each state decides what the nurses in the states are allowed to do and not allowed to do. And that can be very different. There are some things in Maryland that nurses cannot do, where in Virginia, nurses can do. And this is with the same RN license, like a multi-state license. I have a multi-state license that's based in Virginia, but I could go to Maryland and practice as a nurse. But when I practice as a nurse in Maryland with my multi-state license that allows me to practice as a nurse in 30 different states, or something like 30 different states, I have to abide by the Nurse Practice Act of that state. So when I practice in Virginia, I have to abide by the Nurse Practice Act of Virginia that is determined by the Board of Nursing in Virginia that sets the requirement. When I go to Maryland, I'm practicing with my same license, Virginia-based multi-state license. But in Maryland, I must abide by the Nurse Practice Act of Maryland that is set by Maryland Board of Nursing. When I go to Washington, D.C., I can't practice with multi-state license because Washington, D.C. hasn't joined the compact states. But I do have a Washington, D.C. license. So if I practice in Washington, D.C., I have to follow the rules of the Nurse Practice Act in Washington, D.C., meaning the Washington, D.C. Board of Nursing sets the rules for what nurses can do and cannot do in District of Columbia. So we call this area DMV because we have D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. But even though I live less than 5 miles from DC, if I start working at a Washington, DC hospital, like Georgetown MedStar Hospital, where I worked as a student nurse in orthopedics unit, then I would have to follow the rules of Washington, DC Nurse Practice Act that is regulated by Board of Nursing by District of Columbia. I have a District of Columbia registered nurse license, so I can practice anywhere in this District of Columbia. And Georgetown University, MedStar, Georgetown University Hospital is only about 3-4 miles from where I live. And it's only about 2-3 miles from Virginia Hospital Center. Yet they're governed by two different states. Meaning in Virginia, when I work in Virginia Hospital Center, I'm governed by the rules of Virginia, state of Virginia. And every member of the Board of Nursing who regulates what we are supposed to do in Virginia are residents of Virginia, meaning they're registered in Virginia, they're residents of Virginia, they can only vote in Virginia. And Board of Nursing leaders in District of Columbia vote in District of Columbia. They can only regulate things in District of Columbia. They can't touch Virginia. If I drive just about 15, minutes in Maryland when there's no traffic, and practice at a hospital in Maryland, then I have to follow the rules set by nurses in Maryland who are leaders who set the regulations through Board of Nursing in Maryland. And so within a radius of like 10 miles, based on which state you practice, things can be very different. Because in America, everything is regulated by the state. And that's why you cannot blame President Trump for respecting this identity of United States of America, right? Since the very beginning of our country, those who respected United States of America and our identity as a country try not to overstep the boundaries. One of the reasons why I hate Lincoln, President Lincoln, is because he did not respect the rights of the states, and I'm just discussing from the vantage point of state rights, right? Do the states have the right to decide their own destiny or not? I think of President Lincoln as a dictator who tried to force all the states to do what he wanted. And I don't like Lincoln at all. I think President Lincoln is an evil guy, power hungry, very unethical. So I have no respect for President Lincoln. Yeah, and that's why I hate the Lincoln Project. I mean, I will not join anything that has Lincoln name in it, because Lincoln almost destroyed United States of America. If he wasn't assassinated, he probably would have remade America into some kind of dictatorial system. So, praise God that he was assassinated before he could ruin America. But, I speak as a historian, obviously, that was a long time ago. But I think that's the best thing that happened in United States history, that Lincoln was assassinated before he could do damage to America, because he would have done a lot of damage because he did not respect the states at all. He did not respect state rights at all. And that's a beginning of the collapse of America as a nation. Because presidents need to respect the rights of each state, because state rights is important. Joe Biden is like President Lincoln. He does not respect the states. He wants to tell all the states to do what he wants them to do, and he wants them to comply. And this is why I have no respect for Joe Biden. And I think Joe Biden would destroy America. Because at the end of the day, we need to give right of each state to decide its own destiny. Because people who live in Virginia are not like people who live in New York, right? People who live in New York are not like people who live in Massachusetts. People who live in Massachusetts, by and large, are not like people who live in Vermont. There may be similarities, but each state has its own history. Each state has its own identity. Each state has its own experience, a historical experience. And so each state decide its own destiny. And that is why we can blame the governors, right? Because governors are basically kind of like presidents of countries, right? Governor of Massachusetts decides for Massachusetts, and it's applied to all over Massachusetts. So Massachusetts can be compared to like France, right? It's almost like a country, right? Same with lawyers. If you're a lawyer in Massachusetts, practicing under Massachusetts bar, you follow the regulations in Massachusetts. You cannot even practice as a lawyer in Connecticut, which is just one state over, because each state decides who can be a lawyer, who cannot be a lawyer, and what lawyers in that state can do. And you see, it's like this. Like if you're in Germany, you can practice as a lawyer, but if you go to France, you cannot practice as a lawyer, right? It's like that in America. You're in Massachusetts, you can practice as a lawyer if you pass Massachusetts bar, but you go to Connecticut, you cannot practice as a lawyer. You see what I'm saying? So United States of America is more like United Federation of America. It's kind of like if you see Star Trek, you know, you have a federation, right, of different nations. And it's more like that. So there's a type of, just like in Star Trek, you have senators, you know, kind of coming from each state. And you can see this in Star Wars too, right? To a certain extent. But they don't hold supreme power over every state. That's why European Union cannot say everybody in the European Union must shut down, right? But Joe Biden wants to shut down the whole country, right? He has no respect for each state. This is why Joe Biden is the most dangerous man in America, because he has no respect for the rights of every state. I mean, I believe like states like Illinois should completely shut down because of COVID, because they have like 12, 13,000 cases per day. But that's for Governor Pritzker to decide, not for Joe Biden, not for Donald Trump. What I respect about Donald Trump is he respects the rights of every state to decide for itself what they're going to do with COVID. He has his personal views, and everyone is entitled to their personal views. You may not agree with President Trump, because nobody needs to agree perfectly in a democracy. You don't have to agree, right? You know, you have these Democrats who make it sound like everybody must agree on everything. And that's what I call totalitarian streak, like Lincoln, President Lincoln, whom I hate. One of the reasons I didn't want to run as a Republican in Virginia is because, to be honest with you, Fairfax County Republican Committee keeps saying we're the party of Lincoln, and I hate Lincoln. So I just that just turned me off. That's one of the reasons why I really did not want to run as a Republican, because I don't want to be associated with Lincoln. So whether it's Lincoln Project, an anti-Trump or Lincoln Project, I don't want to be associated with Lincoln, because I think he's an evil man. That's my personal opinion, obviously. And my personal opinion is that Lincoln is evil, and that Lincoln is a dictator who wanted to control all of 50 states. And I hate Lincoln. And I think it's good that he was assassinated. I think that's a good thing that happened for the United States, because had President Lincoln not been assassinated, our country would not be the same as it is now. States would not have the rights. We would be like more like communist China, like a dictatorship. Yeah, you see the Civil War, and you see the kind of things that President Lincoln said. He's just a dictator, I mean, he's like, the whole country must be united. The whole country must do the same thing, that they must do what I tell them to do. That's a dictator, right? Democracy, people can disagree, right? And so, I hate President Lincoln. I really hate President Lincoln. One of the happiest moments for me was there graffiti on Lincoln's memorial, and that's like the happiest moment for me during COVID-19, because I hate Lincoln. I mean, I wouldn't go and graffiti Lincoln's memorial because that's like illegal, but if someone else does it, it makes me happy. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, because I mean, if I had my freedom, I would tear down Lincoln's memorial completely, dismantle it. Because I see Lincoln as an evil man who tried to control everybody in America. Um, yeah, so yeah, this is just my personal opinion, but as Americans, we have the right to hate Lincoln and say he's the worst president in the history. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to practice my First Amendment right and say President Lincoln is the worst president in the United States of America. And I hate that man. Um, yeah, you know, more power to me for being an American who has free thinking mind, right? And what are you going to do? Be a sheep, bah, 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 and just go with the masses? Yeah, you be the sheep. You be the sheep. If you want to be the sheep, bah, bah, bah. I just hate Lincoln. I know I'm not the sheep. You know what I'm saying? I stand apart from the sheep. Bah, bah, bah. Yeah, I'm an individual. I'm happy to be an individual. That's what democracy is all about, to be an individual who disagrees with people. Yeah, that's what critical thinking is all about. Disagree with people because you have your own thoughts. That's critical thinking, right? Um, yeah, I'm very happy to be a critical thinker. Yeah, so today is World Pneumonia Day. Let's go to the next slide that contains COVID-19 death. I am right, Dr. Fauci, you're wrong. COVID-19 is going to kill a lot of Americans, far more than the first wave. I know Dr. Fauci and Dr. Gupta in CNN, Dr. Gottlieb, former FDA director, keep saying that it's not going to be as bad. It's not going to be as bad. They've been saying that for the last 3 months. And I've been saying that it's going to be far worse. It's going to be far worse. And I, Heerak Christian Kim, I've been right. I'm becoming more and more right. Right? As history unfolds, you're seeing the genius of Heerak Christian Kim, the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. I am right. And I believe that I will be proven right by June 2021 when we record 30 million deaths in the United States of America from COVID. I believe that that will happen. And that will be the proof positive that I am the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. Because I'm not doing a guessing game here. I'm using my expertise to deduce logically, use the data. It's a data-driven analysis. And I believe that my data-driven analysis is correct. Evidence-based research should always be data-driven, and my research is driven by data. Yeah, not like you guys. You guys don't even know who Lincoln was, and you say you like him. Why don't you read things that he's written, things that he's done, like in the Reconstruction, like heading into that direction. Yeah, just don't like Lincoln just because everybody says he's good. You're just a sheep. You have no free thinking of your own. Think for yourself. If you think for yourself and you like Lincoln, fine. But you think for yourself, don't just go with the masses. Yeah, I hate Lincoln. I really hate Lincoln, Um, yeah, but that's just my personal thing. But hating a dead person, what's the point, right? You know, but he's a historical figure, so you could say I hate him in the present because historical figures who do great things or terrible things, but they're great, meaning they're greatly terrible or greatly good. They almost exist in perpetual present. Like Hitler is in perpetual present, Lincoln is in perpetual present, Robert E. Lee is in perpetual present. That's why there are people who hate Robert E. Lee and try to tear his statue down because he's so great. And some people hate him. Some people love him, So To be a historical figure means you're loved and you're hated, because not everybody's going to love you and hate you. Not everybody's going to love you, right? In the historical figure, Jesus was crucified because so many people hated him, but there are people who loved him, right? So it's like this, all great people are hated or loved, hated and loved at the same time. That's just part of history. Um, Rarely are great people loved by everyone. Generally, if everybody loves you, that's a sign that you're not a historic figure. You're going to be forgotten in history. Um, yeah, that's like Joe Biden is not going to be remembered because there aren't that many people who hate Joe Biden with a passion, right? So he's going to be forgotten in history because in order to arouse a feeling of hatred, you know how much work goes into arousing hatred? Think about the people you hate. Why do you hate them? You hate them because of what they did, right? Because hating takes a lot of work. Why would you hate that guy, John, if he did not screw your girlfriend? You hate John because he had sex with your girlfriend. If he did not have sex with your girlfriend, you would not hate him. He did something that causes you to hate him. And it takes a lot of emotional energy. It takes a lot of time, right, out of your life. It takes a lot of your mind, period, right? I mean, sense of peace, sense of joy is taken away by this energy you expend in hating John because he slept with your girlfriend. That ended up with you and your girlfriend breaking up, for example. Um, so you see, the point is, um, all great people in history who are remembered beyond the generation of 35 years, they solicit extreme hatred in certain segments of population. And that hatred, ironically, helps them to be remembered. Most people will not know Robert E. Lee in America if people who hate him do not remind them who he is, right? Generation after generation, he would eventually be forgotten if there are not people who hate Robert E. Lee who keep bringing him up. Because you keep bringing up Robert E. Lee, he is remembered in history. Because you assume you hate Robert E. Lee, so you assume that everybody's going to hate Robert E. Lee. I love Robert E. Lee. He's one of my greatest heroes in the history of United States. I think he's the greatest military general in the history of the United States. And I use facts and figures. He was triumphant as a commander of the United States forces before he joined the Civil War. And most military geniuses would agree that he's far superior as a commander than Ulysses S. Grant. He was a mediocre general. Yeah, most people, military strategists, to say that. Right? So Robert E. Lee, he would be forgotten, and nobody would remember him if it weren't for people who hate him. Because people who hate him keeps bringing him up, and they think that everybody's going to hate him because they want them to hate him. No, I love Robert E. Lee. I think he's one of the greatest men, greatest Christian who ever lived. I love Robert E. Lee. I hate Lincoln though, but I'm not dumb enough to know. I'm not dumb, and that's why I don't think that everybody's gonna hate Lincoln. You see what I'm saying? I think it makes logical sense to hate Lincoln because Lincoln goes against everything that is sacred in United States of America, like state rights, rights of individuals to have their own thinking. So I think Lincoln is an evil man and I hate Lincoln, but I'm not dumb. And that's why I don't assume that you're going to hate Lincoln. I understand that some of you will love Lincoln for whatever reason. I think it's irrational to love Lincoln. Um, and that Lincoln is the enemy of the American people. But you may not agree with me, and I understand that you may not agree with me because I'm not dumb. I understand people look at history in a different way. Not everybody's going to agree. In the same way, you may hate Donald Trump and think he should lose the election, but he got like 50% of the vote. In Pennsylvania, it's 49% versus 49%. So you may think that Donald Trump is the worst person in the world, the worst president in the world, but obviously 50%, you only belong to half of the Pennsylvanians. Other Pennsylvanians, other 50% think Donald Trump is the greatest thing to happen to America since applesauce or apple pie, right? And you may not understand why they feel that way. If you're dumb, you think that they should think like you. But if you're not dumb, you understand that people don't agree on everything. You see what I'm saying? I hate Lincoln, and I think everybody should hate Lincoln, but you may love Lincoln. I understand that. And I believe that you have the right to like Lincoln if you want. I just think that, you're misdirected. Because Lincoln is the worst thing that happened to the Republic and state rights. You see what I'm saying? I understand you will disagree with me, some of you. Hopefully more of you agree with me than not. But I understand that some of you may disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. I still think you're wrong. And if we have a debate, I'll try to persuade you to hate Lincoln, obviously. If you want to have a discussion, I'm happy to have a discussion anytime you want. And I'll try to persuade you to hate Lincoln, but as I'm doing now, I hope you will end up hating Lincoln. But, that's your freedom. You do what you want. I have respect for state rights. And that's why I don't like Joe Biden. He has this Lincoln streak. He wants to subjugate all of America. He wants to shut down all of America. And there are some states, which are not suffering as much as other states, So I believe that every state should decide for itself what it should do. People choose to go bungee jumping. I will never go bungee jumping because it's risky. Why would you want to risk your life to hang from a rope? I don't understand it. I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand it because I think that's the stupidest thing to do. But some people want to risk death for a thrill, right? And I understand that, but I don't agree with it. I would never do it. In the same way, there are people who may not wear a mask and play with death. I mean, I say stay away from me if you don't wear a mask. If I'm in a shopping center or something, I would just avoid people who are not wearing masks because I'm 6 feet away, right? But I understand that they have the right not to wear a mask if they don't want to, just not around me. You know what I'm saying? Because, obviously I don't want to die from COVID, right? And the way you get COVID is by people not wearing a mask and speaking to you, right? You can get COVID and die from that. If that person has COVID, if that person doesn't have COVID, you're not going to die, obviously, because he doesn't have COVID. He does, even if he's not wearing a mask, you can't get it because he doesn't have it. So it's hit and miss because you don't know who has COVID and who does not. So let's say you talk to 100 people without a mask, maybe 70 of them don't have COVID and you won't get it, but 30 of them may have COVID. and you may get COVID. You see what I'm saying? So you could talk to 7 people without mask and none of them have COVID and you're not going to get it because they don't have COVID. But you may talk to the 8th person and that person may have COVID and you could get it from that person. And that's why, in shopping centers, I try to be very careful with people who are not properly wearing their mask. Try to stay at least 6 feet away. Because at the end of the day, they have the right to take risk with their own life. I just don't want them to take risks with my life. I don't want them to force me to bungee jump. I don't want to bungee jump. So I'm going to wear a mask. You see what I'm saying? So this Joe Biden has this streak of trying to force everybody to do the same thing. Like wear a mask. I mean, it's one thing to impose a curfew and say you stay at home because there's a war. You stay at home because there's a coronavirus out there. But you can't say you must wear a mask inside your own home. You see what I'm saying? Or you should definitely wear a mask if you're walking alone by yourself in the middle of a street that's completely empty. Do you see what I mean? I think that's absolutely ridiculous. If I'm walking alone in a street that's completely empty, I'm not going to wear a mask. What's the point? Right? Because this is a virus that spreads person to person. Yeah, I don't wear a mask when I'm walking in an empty street by myself. That's stupid. That's why, I understand why people would say, do not, let's shut the city of Chicago down, which it should do. Because Chicago has Illinois has 13,000 cases. The whole state should shut down. Governor has the right to mandate that everybody stay at home. Right? Right? He has the right to do that to prevent people from spreading COVID. I mean, you see, it's a necessity to prevent COVID-19 death everywhere. But you cannot say everybody must wear a mask at home. Right? That's just ridiculous. But, some governors may pass that kind of law. Because curfew is something that the governors can impose. Governments can impose curfew in times of war, in times of violence, in times of, pandemic, right? To protect the citizens. These are things that people can do. But you cannot say oh, you must wear a mask when you're walking alone in the middle of the street, or the police car is going to give you a $300 ticket because you're not wearing a mask when you're walking alone by yourself, outside by yourself, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm against that. I mean, I would agree that it's okay for someone to say you must wear a mask in government buildings, right? Everybody is required to wear a mask in government buildings. I understand that. I agree with that kind of statement. And every business has the right to mandate wearing a mask in their businesses. I think that they have the right to do that. It's private property. They could set the rules within their private property. But I do not believe that the state have the right to mandate that everybody in the state wear a mask all the time. Even when they're walking outside by themselves. I disagree with that because that's like a totalitarian impulse. You know what I mean? Now, because as long as you're not coming into my home, if I live in a single home, it doesn't hurt me, right? If you don't wear a mask, right? If I know that a business allows people not to wear a mask, then I just don't want to go there. Like if Walmart doesn't require everyone to wear a mask, I just won't go to Walmart and buy food there. Because I would say it's too dangerous. So, that's what I would do. Well, but Walmart has the right to set policies for itself. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a private business. But I don't believe the government should come in and tell every business to require wearing a mask. I don't agree with that policy. I just would not go to a business that doesn't require a mask. Um, but obviously the government, when it imposes a curfew or a lockdown, has the right to say all businesses except non-essential business must close. That the government has the right to do, based on the severity of the case. It's like in any time of war or time of violence or time of global pandemic, government can take certain steps. And I believe that state governments have the right to do that because, as I said, a state is like a country. And when cases get too bad, and I believe that Illinois Governor Pritzker should impose a mandatory stay-at-home order for all people in Illinois. I believe that. So that people will have to stay in their home and not come out unless they are buying food or going to hospital. And I believe that that's what Governor Pritzker should do. If he doesn't do that, I believe that over 1 million people will die in Illinois. And the fact that Governor Pritzker has not already imposed a stay-at-home order for the whole state, I think shows that a Democratic governor like Pritzker is a danger to the state of Illinois. Because if I were governor of Illinois, I've already done it 2 weeks ago. So there is protocol that respects democracy and balance that with the common good, right? What the Greeks call to agathon, and Greeks had democracy. So you gotta weigh what is the common good and what is the individual right, right? You cannot usurp individual right, then you cease to be a democracy, right? So you have to balance it. That's why, the Lady Justice has a balance. You can't just blanket impose whatever you want to because that you think that it's in common good. You have to balance the individual rights. That's why I'm against universal mask mandate. I'm against a state imposing a mandate to wear a mask all the time. Because when you're alone in the middle of a street outside, you don't need to wear a mask. We don't need a police car coming around and giving you a $300 ticket when you're alone without a mask in the middle of a street with nobody there. But under the universal mask mandate, that's what will happen, right? If Governor Northam imposes a universal mask mandate in Virginia, that everybody must wear a mask when they're outside their home, you can be standing alone middle of a Columbia Pike at 5 a.m. by yourself, nobody there, not wearing a mask, and police car passing by can stop and give you a $300 ticket. Does that make sense to you? Nobody's going to give you COVID. You're not going to give COVID to anybody. Why should you be required to wear a mask? If you impose a stay-at-home order, there won't be people in the streets anyway, right? But when you impose a stay-at-home order universally in your state, you're doing that out of survival, right? To protect everyone. So you're not imposing on individual rights because you're not saying every individual must wear a mask. See, you're forcing every individual to do something they don't want to do. It's a confinement, right? Whether you put somebody in a chain, right? Some people can't breathe without with a mask. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Some people can't breathe with a mask because they're a smoker or they have a lung condition. They can't breathe like this with a mask. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Why would you want to force people not to be able to breathe? Some people are claustrophobic. If they wear a mask, they start hyperventilating because they're claustrophobic. But if you say you stay at home, it's a home is where they live anyway, right? To protect them, you're not infringing on their personal space. because they are in their personal space. You're just telling them, for the sake of the common good, don't come out to public space. Um, but no one is supposed to come out to public space except for essential need. So it's fair and just, right? Do you understand the logic of what I'm saying? I mean, if you're a rational being, you understand why this is important for democracy. We're talking about the republic falling as a nation, the democratic form of government completely collapsing under Biden. You know, if he were to win, he hasn't won yet because we have recounts to do. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, I personally don't want to be near people when I go to shopping mall who are not wearing masks, right? If I were a police officer, then you have no choice. It's your job. You have to deal with criminals who wear masks, some will not wear masks. What are you going to do? Like if you're a police officer, you're not going to arrest people just because they're not wearing a mask. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, you have to talk to people whether they're wearing a mask or not. If you're a police officer, that's why a lot of police officers die in COVID-19. Like in NYPD, they had thousands of people, NYPD police officers get COVID, and I think hundreds died in the last April in New York. So there are certain scenarios where, like if you're a police officer or fireman, then it comes with the job. But I'm talking about as a private citizen in private space, whether it's consumer space or private citizen space, you get to decide where you go and you don't go, right? It's your choice. Yeah, so you see what I'm saying. And this is why I do not agree with Biden. Biden's transition team, they're going to be like fascist dictators. They're going to force you to do things that you don't want. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. Their plan is kind of dictatorial. That's the problem I have. We have 50 states. Let the governors decide what they're going to do, right? In consultation with their mayors of their big cities. I think that's a fair thing to do, right? And Trump agrees with this kind of strategy because he respects the form of government we have, which gives states the rights. I mean, Trump is not perfect. I mean, he has flaws, obviously. But in terms of COVID-19 response, he has his personal views. And every president's going to have their personal view. Every governor is going to have their personal view. And obviously, their personal views will dictate what they do, policies they set. But President Trump also has a COVID-19 team. Dr. Fauci is one of them, and he's done very good. I would say he pulled flights from China. He pulled flights from Europe, right? And so I would say President Trump has actually done very well as the president in reducing COVID-19 death, right? While respecting individual rights of the states. Because he did not say, oh, Governor Newsom in California cannot shut the state down, right? Right? He might have disagreed with it, and he might have tweeted disagreement, but you're allowed to disagree. This is a democracy. Don't get all hot and heavy because President Trump doesn't agree with what Gavin Newsom does or what Ralph Northam does. You cannot get all hot and heavy because people are entitled to their opinion. Politicians have their own opinion. And that's why we have a democratic election, right? You vote for people you agree with. You vote against people you disagree with. Don't get all hot and heavy, just because you disagree with the politician. I'm a politician. I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th district that includes Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. And I have my political views with which I'm running. I hate President Lincoln. If you hate President Lincoln, vote for me. If you love President Lincoln and you don't like the fact that I hate President Lincoln and you don't want to vote for me, that's fine. That's your democratic right, right? But don't get all hot and heavy because I hate President Lincoln. I have the right as a US citizen to hate President Lincoln. Don't get all hot and heavy. You hate President Trump, and he's a legitimate president of the United States. Why are you telling me I don't have the right to hate President Lincoln? Well, you think like you're so much better than me that you could hate President Trump, but you don't want me to hate President Lincoln? What? Who made you God over me? Who made you a slave owner over me? Why do you want to make me into your slave? I have the right to hate President Lincoln because I'm a free person. I'm not a slave. I'm not your slave. You're not going to tell me not to hate President Lincoln because I'm a free man. I'm entitled to my views, and I'm allowed in the free country of United States of America to hate whichever president I want. Well, what makes President Trump different from President Lincoln in the sense that they're both presidents? You hate President Trump. I hate President Lincoln. So what's the problem? You see what I'm saying? Don't tell me not to hate President Lincoln. I have the right to hate President Lincoln. Who made you God over me? Who made you master over me? You see what I'm saying? This is a free country, and our positions are protected by the First Amendment. Don't go all local on me. Don't go all like communist China on me and try to control my mind. Don't do that. You know? Yeah, we have the right to believe what we want. We have the right to hate whoever we want. We have the right to like whoever we want. This is a free nation. Don't try to tell me who to like, who not to like. You like who you like. You have people who you hate. You hate President Trump. You like it when people tell you not to hate President Trump? Well, there. Yeah, and that's what makes us a free country. You know, there are people who want to just like destroy United States First Amendment rights, you know, and that's why civil rights laws protect Aryan Nation. Civil rights laws protect the KKK. Civil rights laws protect Black Lives Matter. Civil rights laws protect Black Panthers. Civil rights laws protect people of all different positions. This is what the civil rights laws protect. Because you're going to tell me to shut up, I'm going to tell you to shut up. You tell me not to hate President Lincoln, I'm going to tell you not to hate President, you know, whoever you hate. Yeah, don't try to control me. You don't have that right. And so, you know, so I am running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th district, and I'm a champion of the First Amendment. I'm happy to use the First Amendment as a weapon against anybody who seeks to destroy it to the fullest limit of the law. And I would say there is no limit to First Amendment rights. Yeah, so let's test it out. I believe that businesses that try to curb First Amendment rights should be punished by civil rights laws, that they should have criminal charges imposed on CEOs, presidents, chief operating officers who seek to curb civil rights, that they should go to jail. This is what I believe. And we should work as a nation to put people in jail when they try to curb your civil rights to the First Amendment right of freedom of speech. This is the way we save United States of America, by putting into prison business leaders who try to control, whether they're Twitter or Facebook, try to control freedom of speech. We need to put them in jail because they're the enemy of democracy. And so, yeah, we need to target businesses that seek to use their money to control American democracy, because that becomes an oligarchy. We're no longer democracy then. Ruled by the few, right? Whether they're CEOs or businesses, they have no right to control America. Yeah. So yeah, we need to punish the businesses and the CEOs when they try to create an oligarchy in America because they're a national security threat, right? So this is a national security issue when they try to subvert democracy by trying to control the freedom of speech. We need to put them in prison, and I feel very strongly about that. And I think that you should join me in a fight to throw business leaders in prison when they try to destroy First Amendment rights. Because we don't need an oligarchy in America, ruled by the few. And that goes in Arlington County, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax County. This is in the interest of everybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent. We need to work together. We must unite to throw business leaders in prison when they try to curb our First Amendment rights. That's necessary. Yeah. So we have 1,784 cases. And so total death is 242,622 deaths. So we have 10,546,706 cases. Yeah, so unfortunately, we're just in the beginning part of the flu season. And if we look at the top 5 cases in Arab countries, they're smart enough to stay at home, I guess, I don't think, because this spreads from people to people. If you stay at home, you're not going to get it. Right? It's just logical. Iran is number 1, 726,585 cases. At 6% death rate, you have 40,121 deaths. And number 2, Iraq, you have 511,806 cases. And at 2% death rate, 11,532. I hope Biden doesn't make himself the enemy of the American people by trying to control what we think and what we say. I say throw Biden in prison if he does that. Number 3, Saudi Arabia is 352,160 cases. And the death rate is 2%, so you have 5,605 deaths. Israel is number 4 at 322,159 cases. And death is 2,706. And United Arab Emirates has 146,735 cases, and at 0.4%, 523 deaths. Israel is doing really well, as you can see, but Israel shut down as a country before Rosh Hashanah. So I think it's the smartest thing that they did. But Israel as a country has what? Population of 6 million people? So it's smaller than most states in America. This is why I'm saying states should decide. I believe that Illinois should shut down, like Governor Pritzker should issue a stay-at-home order for the whole state because they have 13,000 cases. When it gets to be that bad, you have to take action and say, we're going to shut the whole state down, right? Because it's not 13,000 cases in Virginia, right? It's 13,000 cases in Illinois. So Illinois must shut down if it wants to survive with most of its citizens not dead by June. There's no other way. What are you going to do? Keep the state open? Keep having 13,000 people get COVID every day? That's ridiculous. If you can't find a way to control COVID spreading like that, you have to shut those states down. You have no choice. There's no other choice. Number 5, United Arab Emirates. It's 146,735 cases and 523 deaths, as I've said before. Yeah, and a lot of people like to act sanctimonious. They're like, oh, we have the right to tear down Robert E. Lee statue. You don't have the right. Who made you God? I don't agree with you. A lot of people don't agree with you. Well, who made you God? Who gave you the right to tear down Robert E. Lee statue? I'm 100% sure more than 50% of Virginians don't want Robert E. Lee statues torn down. I'm 100% sure. So who made you God? Tearing down Robert E. Lee statue. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. You have your heroes. I have my heroes. One of my heroes is Robert E. Lee. This is a free country. What, you going to tell me I don't have the right to my own heroes? Wait, what are you going to do? Put a gun to my head and force me to not like Robert E. Lee? Who made you God? We're not a communist dictatorship here. Yeah, it's like what they're trying to do with Kim Davis. She's just trying to follow Christianity. Christianity is opposed to homosexuality and gay marriage. And look, they use the laws of the United States of America, right? They manipulated that, throw her in prison. And that's like supreme violation of the First Amendment rights, freedom of religion. She has the right to follow the Bible position. You see what I'm saying? Why do you think I have Kim Davis right there all the time? Because she is what all Christians should be, willing to go to prison for their Christian faith. All of you who are calling yourself true Christians should be willing to go to prison for your Christian faith. You know how many Christians in the past 2,000 years willingly went to prison for their Christian faith? You should be willing too. Yeah, they said, be like Mike. I said, be like him. Yeah. I have a photo. That's my friend, Elizabeth Papst. She's from Munich, Bavaria. The whole area is very Catholic. She's Catholic. She's a farmer's daughter. Like her father owns a big farm in Bavaria. And then, they grow food and they have the animals. So she was telling me about, milking cows and, killing pigs to make bacon and stuff like that. They have a big thing going there. So, I met her when she was 18 and she visited me at Cambridge University when I was there researching Jewish studies. So, we spent, several days in London. No, more like a week in London, and then we spent some time in Cambridge, and kind of she came for vacation, so we toured around. It was kind of fun. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess I thought I was being an artist and taking these like quote artistic photos. I don't know if they're artistic or not, but I do have an artistic side, so I think they're artistic. But you be the judge, right? I mean, art is what you think is beautiful, right, in your own mind. So if that's art to you, then that's art. If you don't think that's art, then that's not art, Yeah, you're in control. Don't relinquish your control. Don't relinquish your control to the government. Don't relinquish your control to Joe Biden, Hold on to your control. You're nobody's slave. You're not Joe Biden's slave. Yeah, so I have 3 articles here, and Illinois is in a serious situation right now. So I thought I would talk about Illinois. COVID-19 USA, Illinois starts shutting down. Yeah, because they're my prediction is they're going to have over 1 million deaths by June. It's unfortunate. Obviously, I don't want anybody to die. I march for life. But Illinois is headed in that direction, and it's very unfortunate. I blame Governor Pritzker. Like, I blame every governor for whatever happens in the state because governors can do what they can do to prevent COVID-19 death. They could shut the schools down. They're government schools, public schools. They could shut them down. There's no law against it. If Ralph Northam wants to shut every public school down, he has the right as the governor. And I think he should. I personally believe that Governor Northam should issue an executive order to shut every school in Virginia down and have them go 100% online to save lives of citizens. That's what I believe. I've been tweeting and tweeting to get Virginia Governor Northam to issue an executive order to require all the colleges in Virginia to go online. And I've been doing that since like what, June or July. Well, you go back to my tweets, and I forgot exactly when I started it, but you know, he didn't listen, and you know, it's a problem. This is a global pandemic. Only way you're going to survive is isolating. That's the only way. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have a cure. So right now, the only way you're going to survive. I mean, obviously, you may survive even if you don't isolate, because you know, I mean, not everybody's going to die. But you could die. You know, I'm predicting that 30 million Americans will die. We have 330 million Americans. So 300 million Americans are not going to die. You see what I'm saying? So more people are not going to die, but some are going to die. If you don't want to die and you want to ensure that you don't want to die, you should isolate yourself. It's as simple as that. If you want to take the risk of dying, you know, you may end up dead. I mean, you know, but you're not necessarily going to die because you don't take the precautions. You know what I'm saying? It's like anything in life, right? Just because you go to bungee jumping, you're not going to die. But there are some people who are going to die. You know, there are people who go parachuting, and many don't die. But you know, there are a few who die because parachute doesn't open, or you know, they don't pull it in time. You know, whatever the problem is. But you know, COVID-19 is far more dangerous than those two, you know, in terms of opportunity for death. Um, yeah. Illinois announces more than 12,000 new COVID-19 cases Thursday. That's today. Travel not recommended for next 3 weeks. It's more like for next 6 months. Let's be honest here. The liberal media tried to downplay the seriousness of the problem. And that's why we have already 250,000 Americans dead. Because liberal media tries to play down the seriousness. As I said, you know, if you don't want to wear a mask and you want to risk that, do it on your own time. You know, in your own personal space with your friends. You know, I'm not going to be there. You know what I mean? You have the right to do what you want. This is a free country. But you know, just don't drag other people into it. You know, there are a lot of people who want to wear a mask and survive this thing. I mean, of course, just because you're not wearing a mask doesn't mean you'll definitely die, right? I mean, majority will still live, right? As I said, there are 330 million Americans. I'm predicting 30 million will die. 300 million won't. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be far more than 30 million, but I'm just saying, you know, that's my prediction. So reading in the first article, public health officials announced the total of 12,702 new COVID-19, new cases of COVID-19. So that's like almost 13,000, right? And 43 virus-related death Thursday. Their death is beginning to rise. So that's nothing right now. I mean, it's not nothing, obviously. 43 important people have died. But, you know, 5 weeks from now, it'll be like 1,270, you know, 10%. During the height of flu season, it may be more than 10%. Currently, the Illinois Department of Public Health is reporting a total of 536,542 cases, including 10,477 deaths in 102 counties in Illinois. The age of cases ranges from younger than one to older than 100 years old. See, 1-year-olds are dying. If you are a mother and you have just a newborn, your child can die from COVID. Don't believe the myth. I know Dr. Fauci was saying, oh, if you're young children, you have less chance of dying. He was sprouting off this, like, that was his prediction, but he's not the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century like I am. And from the very beginning, I said, your children can die. Your babies can die. Dr. Fauci is like, well, children are not going to die. They're not really going to die. I'm like, Dr. Fauci, you're wrong. I said that since the very beginning. Because Dr. Fauci is kind of looking at it from an expert as an expert of viruses. I'm looking at it from the larger picture, right? COVID-19 is a complex thing. It's not acting like a normal virus. It's mutating much more frequently and faster and significantly than other viruses that we know. So I'm using a lot of expertise as a historian, as an expert of Jewish history, expert of theology, expert of healthcare sciences, expert of education to come up with analysis that mirror accurate reality, right? And project accuracy. Dr. Fauci, he's only like, he only has virus expertise, and that could be limited when you're trying to predict things. And that's why I've been more right than Dr. Fauci. Not because he doesn't know viruses. He knows viruses far more than I know viruses. But COVID-19 is not like a normal virus. So his predictions are going to be wrong. The age of cases ranges from younger than 1 to older than 100 years old. Right? Your child can die. You should expect your child to die if you're taking risky measures like sending your children to school. Yeah, that's the greatest risk you take with your child's life. Yeah, if I'm a parent, I don't have any children. I've never been married. I'm hoping God will send me somebody to marry that's a good Christian who loves Jesus. But has to be very pretty, very thin, very tall. Very. She has to be pretty. Beautiful. Hopefully I'll hit all three. But if not, what can you do, right? Yeah, I'm just praying that God will give me all three. Like beautiful face, beautiful body, very tall, preferably taller than me. But yeah, I like looking up at women. I like women who are like better than me. It's hard to find, but I like women, who are like better than me, and that's why, like, when I was, like the women who've dated that I've dated, they've been superior in different ways, like either economically, well, being a pastor's kid, that's not hard to do, yeah, I've dated like billionaires and millionaires, obviously, they're richer than me, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, let's go back to the article. The age of cases ranges from younger than 1 to older than 100 years. IDPH is asking people to stay home as much as possible. That's what I've been saying since like April, right? All throughout the summer, I said, when you go to the beach, just go with your household, just socialize with people from your household, remember that? Just go to like my episodes from like June and July. Leaving only for necessary and essential activities. I mean, if you have 100 people in an island, no one has COVID, you could do whatever you want, right? No one has COVID. They're not going to get COVID unless one person comes onto that island, right? Well, one person with COVID comes onto that island. Second article, Chicago issues stay-at-home advisory. See, this is where I have a problem. They should have issued a stay-at-home executive order, not an advisory. They're not going far enough to save the people in Chicago. It's a serious problem. Even just in the city of Chicago, you could have 1 million deaths. New restrictions as COVID-19 cases surge. Under the stay-at-home advisory effective Monday, November 16, the city is urging, it's not strong enough in a state that has like 13,000 cases per day, right? I mean, when you agree with me, I mean, it's like bombs are dropping in the city of Chicago, right? And they're just going to say, we advise you stay home. No. I mean, this is an emergency situation here. Yeah. So effective Monday, November 16, the city is urging residents to, one, practice social distancing by staying 6 feet away, at least 6 feet away. People are like, oh, we're 6 feet away. No, you're like 5 feet, 5.5 feet away. It's at least 6 feet. Step back like 1 or 2 steps. At least 6 feet. The wording must change. It's not like 6 feet. At least 6 feet, preferably like 10 feet away from others, and wearing a face covering at all times. Well, face covering when you're with people, not when you're alone. Number 2, not hold any gatherings at home with anyone outside their household. Of course, you have to be a doomcock to invite people inside your home with 4 walls and a low ceiling, not knowing whether they have COVID or not. I mean, geez, you're like bringing COVID into your home. Are you crazy? Even with trusted family or friends, yeah, because you don't know which relative, which friends have COVID. You just don't know. It's not safe. Use remote communication for the holidays. Yeah, just use your phone. Use your Zoom, use your Skype. I mean, geez, we have the technology to survive COVID. Why don't you use it? Number 3, avoid all non-essential and out-of-state travel. Don't travel. Do you want to survive this COVID or not? I mean, geez, travel all you want once once it's gone. It may never be gone. That's true. But I mean, you have to, balance. I mean, do you want to risk that by traveling? I mean, it's your freedom, but why would you want to do that? Obviously, the government have the right to shut down all air transport, which I think they should, like in Chicago. No one flies in or out of Chicago. Yeah, because, I mean, if you want to drive with your own car, go right ahead. You're inside your car. But plane is a problem because, I mean, how are you going to prevent COVID spread within a plane with all those people packed inside like sardines? That just doesn't make sense. Avoid all non-essential and out-of-state travel, following the travel guidelines if necessary. Because if you drive from Chicago in a family car to your, farm in Wisconsin, and you're not going to talk to anybody, and you're going to like just get groceries and just be with your family and ride horses in your farm, well, yeah, you could, there's no problem, right? Third article, Pritzker warns of another stay-at-home order if COVID-19 numbers don't improve. For God's sake, issue the stay-at-home order. Save the lives of people in Illinois. Why don't you do what you need to do to save Illinois people? I don't know. It's like, the term, one who hesitates is lost. It's like Pritzker. I mean, geez, you need to save Illinois people. You need to shut the state down by executive order. Oh, my gosh, So the significant quote is this: Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. These Democrat governors, they do everything wrong and then blame Trump. When you agree with me, that's just dishonest. Pritzker can shut down Illinois, but he turns around, blames Trump. Like he's like, What? Does he want Trump to control Illinois? These Democrats, they're such hypocrites. They have the right to shut their own state down and they blame Trump. Like even Biden he's like the hypocrites. He's hypocrite of hypocrites. Biden. He blames Trump. Like when these Democratic governors don't even shut the state down and they have the right to do that. They have the authority by law to do that, and they don't even do that. And Biden blames Trump. Does that even make sense to you? Biden thinks we're like all dumb. Like 330 million Americans are all dumb. You know what I'm saying? Biden treats us like children, right? Biden doesn't treat us like adults. Biden thinks like if he tells us that Trump is at fault, we're going to believe him. We're not idiots. Americans, we're not idiots. We're smart. That's how we built this nation, right? The middle class built this nation. And many in the middle class did not even go to college. Some of them did not even finish high school. We built this nation. And Joe Biden thinks we're like stupid. Like he's going to tell us that Trump is at fault and he thinks that we're going to believe him. We know that Democratic governor like Pritzker did not shut down Illinois. It still doesn't shut down Illinois. And how can he blame Trump when he's not doing his job? We're not stupid here. 330 million Americans are not stupid. This is why we need to have the vote recount, because Biden doesn't deserve to be president. He really doesn't deserve to be president. Do you really want this guy, Biden, who's like blaming Trump for everything under the sun? Oh, the sun didn't come out today. It was raining. Trump's fault. Do you really want an idiot like Joe Biden to be your president? Are you kidding me? They're like full of it. Like they're full of it when they blame Trump for everything under the sun. They're full of it. If you're going to blame Trump for something that he did. Do you know what I mean? Oh, the sun came up. Oh, that's Trump's fault. For God's sake, this is a global pandemic. It's going to kill people, right? You can't blame Trump for everything, right? He shut the country down in the sense that he prevented flights from China from coming into America. He prevented flights to Europe, right? Those are things that presidents can do. So he did what he needed to do to curb what he needed to do. He sent a ship to New York, right, to treat COVID. He did what as a president, what else could he do? He's not God. And so Joe Biden, like blaming Trump for like, oh, there's 200,000 deaths now in America. It's Trump's fault. Doesn't even make sense. Doesn't make sense. Look at all the people celebrating, when, saying that Joe won. I disagree with that. He doesn't have the votes. We need to do the recount to see, verify who actually won. Is it Joe Biden or Trump? We need to do a full count of all the votes under like lock and key, like, under scrutiny. Who's going to believe that he's a legitimate winner? Geez, for God's sake. Are you going to accept Tin Man Joe as your legitimate leader without a recount? The guy who wants to like shut the whole country down? Geez. He wants to shut the whole continent down. Does that make sense to you? When Democratic governors like Pritzker is not doing his job, shutting his little state down. It's not even little. It's bigger than like Scandinavian countries combined, all of them. So Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says the state is heading toward another mandatory stay-at-home order. Speaking during his daily press conference from Chicago on Thursday, the governor reiterated the Illinois Department of Public Health message of staying at home. Our goal here is this: we are asking Illinoisans, no matter where they live, to stay home as much as possible, only leaving for essential activities if you can, like work if you can't work remotely, school if you're learning in person, getting groceries, visiting the doctor, or getting a COVID test, as Scott said, Governor Pritzker. The governor once again called out local leaders. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the Democratic governors are doing a bad job controlling the pandemic, and they're just trying to like blame it on Trump. I mean, I like to be a fair guy. If Trump actually deserves blame, I would say it. You've seen this show, so you know, where Trump deserves blame. Yeah, he deserves a blame, but COVID-19 is not an area where he deserves the blame. He has his personal preferences. Um, he takes risks. People with his friends who are willing to take the same risk. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but if he and they want to do that, it's a free country. You know, it's like mutual consent, right? If they're taking risks, mutually consenting to take risks. Um, you know, I mean, geez, it's their body. I mean, let go of their. What are you trying to do? Control their bodies? Oh, geez, for God's sake, it's their bodies. You know, they have the right to do what they want with their bodies. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're killing anybody, right? Um, right? I mean, it's not like abortion where you're like killing a little baby, right? So, just think about it. Think of it this way. These liberal like communazis, liberal communazis want to force us to submit as slaves. Do you want to be a slave? Do you want to submit as a slave under King Biden? Do you want to be a slave of King Biden? I mean, you decide for yourself what you want. You're a free man. Maybe you don't feel like you're free. Maybe you feel like you're a slave of Biden. I don't know. Only you can answer that, right? But I am a free person. I don't want to be a slave of Joe Biden. Do you want to be a slave of Joe Biden? Say it with me. I am not a slave. Say it with me right now. I am not a slave of Joe Biden. 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 Yeah. Doesn't that make you feel better? Yeah, it makes you feel better, right? Because Joe Biden is making you feel like a slave. Like you got to do what he tells you to do. When you feel like a slave, why do you want to be a slave? Doesn't make sense. Yeah. We need to do things to save your life, but you don't have to become a slave to be saved from COVID-19. That's all I'm saying. Joe Biden is trying to use COVID-19 to make you into slave. And we have to resist that, right? Don't you feel like you need to resist Joe Biden's effort to make you into a slave using COVID-19 as an excuse? Don't you think that that's wrong? Because you're a free person. You're not a slave. You see what I'm saying? We need to fight the totalitarian impulses among the liberals to make people into their slaves. Yeah, otherwise you're going to become a slave. Do you want to be a slave? we need to fight it. We need to say, no, Mr. Joe Biden, we're not your slave. We're not your slave. I hope that you will join me in reaffirming yourself as a free person, reaffirming that you're a free man, you're not a slave. Because you live in America, you're not a slave. You should not feel like you're a slave, right? And Joe Biden is trying to make you feel like you're a slave. And that is wrong. That is wrong. Yeah, I'm going to continue to bring you news news regarding COVID-19, whether Joe Biden likes it or not, right? And you're free to watch whatever you want. If you don't want to watch my show, don't watch my show. It's your freedom. Just turn it off. Yeah. So let's resist totalitarian power of Joe Biden. Let's resist totalitarian power of Joe Biden. Yeah, I want to unite the whole country in resistance against totalitarian power of Joe Biden. Maybe that's, maybe I'll devote more time to that, because it's important for the survival of United States of America as a nation to resist the totalitarian power of Joe Biden. Yeah. But anyway, for now, I'll focus on COVID-19. And obviously, I'll talk about Joe Biden as it relates to COVID-19 and your survival during COVID-19 America. Yeah, for now, I'll focus on Joe Biden unless God wants me to focus on I'll focus on COVID-19. But if God wants me to focus on Joe Biden, my gosh, man, I would love to be like Shea Guevara. I can't pronounce his name. Shea. That like Latinos have their shirt with Shea. Yeah, you could have a shirt with my face in it, with this mask. Heerak, Heerak. Heerak. I mean, it's not like Shea. Shea sounds so much cooler. It's like Shea. But Heerak, I mean, 2 syllables is always more difficult. It's like James Bond, Bond, James Bond, Bond, James Bond, like so 1 syllable, Bond, that's kind of like an exclamation point, right? Shay. I mean, it's not an exclamation point, it's more like, an underline, underscore, Shay. But like Heerak, it's more like, it's 2 syllables, so it kind of takes away the impact. It's like shared impact. 50% he, 50% rock. He rock. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like it kind of takes away the power, that 1 syllable would have. But anyway, yeah. People, what do you call them? What would you call Shay? Conscientious objector? These people are remembered in history, Shay's remembered. A lot of following. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, if God wants me to go in that direction, I'd be happy to go in that direction, It'd be fun. You know what I'm saying? Populist resistance to totalitarian power. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. We the people. Power to the people. It kind of has a ring to it. We the people. Power to the people. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I hope you got something important out of this show that will help you survive COVID-19. And I'll continue to bring you information, data, analysis that will help you survive COVID-19, you and your children. I fight for you, right? I try to help you. You fight for me, and you help me help you, right? So we help each other. So we are in this together, you and me. You and me against the world, baby. You and me against the world. Yeah. Anyway. Um, um, yeah. So, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. So for now, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.